Knob Creek tonight. Well, maybe a little earlier, but not right now. As much as Knob Creek was part of my sob story, I actually really like it. So, I mean, it wasn't that bad drinking it. Oh, this is nice. Interesting nose. Mellow. Nothing sharp here at all.
Mm-hmm.
Are we starting on the mystery sample?
We are starting on the mystery sample, yes.
Oh, wow. So I don't have any no chance to get that Bunnahabhain DNA back into our system before we start attacking it, eh?
That's why I dove into the helmsman, the stewarder.
It's go time, Happy. Hit it hard.
Yeah, no warm-up.
Rubber to the road. Let's go.
I do love the nose on this one, though. Like,
yeah, I do too. Just balanced would be the word that I would pick for this. It's just perfectly balanced.
That's exactly the word for it.
Sweet fruit, brine. There's some oak, but it's certainly not overpowering.
I think my favorite Bunnahabhain tasting note that always comes through for me, at least on many of their unpeated ones, is just that salted caramel.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, it's so good. Just so everybody's aware, I have hit the record button, so from here on in, you're going to be on YouTube, so, keep it G-rated-ish.
Oh, we've got an early guest coming through.
Incoming.
All right. I love the tasting notes coming through already. Simon's tasting note, that is in depth.
That's impressive, Simon.
So we started?
That's the tasting note of a sober person.
For anyone that just joined in, we're tackling the blind tasting Buna first. I just figured that would be a good way to start engaging the crowd right off the bat. And start running through some distillery history if you guys want. If John wants to talk anything.
Well, and so that was kind of my question. I know you guys have had Mr. Brisebois on in the past, and he does an awesome job talking about the history of the distillery, but is that something you guys want to hear? Because, we can go through the whole 1881 translating to mouth of the river. But yeah, if you want to get into it, we can do just like a slight recap history of the distillery. First of all, I was thinking about this today. Are any of you guys still actively on Twitter? I know a lot of people abandoned Twitter a long time ago.
I use Facebook to acquire black market whiskey and Twitter to fight with anti-vaxxers.
There's a lot of that. That's basically Twitter's main use. But
it's pretty fun.
I log on to Twitter for one reason and one reason only, and I need to get my morning dose of happy. And if you aren't already on Twitter, and if you're not following him already, but David Brody, tour guide for the distillery at Bunnahabhain, is on Twitter. And most mornings, maybe not every morning, but a lot of mornings, he goes out for a walk around Islay. He takes up to 5 dogs with him. And he'll just stop somewhere scenic, and he will record a video. And he'll just talk about whatever in his life. But it always starts off with this, "Hello! Greetings from Islay!" And it just, as soon as I hear that, it just makes my day every single morning. And this man is just a giant beauty. So if you're not following him already, actually, have any of you ever gone to the distillery and met him in person?
No.
Okay. So again, I was because his stories are hilarious from the distillery. Every time he does a tour, it's just a little bit different. He's a bundle of energy. He's a bundle of personality. But so if you're wanting to get just kind of cool insights on the distillery from someone who's there every single day, but also just something a little bit different and something a little bit unique, where you can just see what life is like on Islay on a daily basis and just get a dose of happy from someone with an awesome Scottish accent that's going to just make your day. Definitely definitely follow him because it's just the greatest. And then it'll just, there it is, Myke. Thank you very much. It'll make
I
you
got
want to visit the distillery ASAP. Oh, I've apparently unplugged my laptop and I don't need that shutting off. So definitely worth the follow. It's just, again, it's that morning dose of happy, and he is the best. Let's see, we're seeing in the chat. I'm just taking a look. We're seeing some wine influence. I see the French wine cask for early guess from Colin. All right, keep them coming. Yes, so the distillery itself was originally founded in 1881. And for those of you, I'm sure you already know, but there's the helmsman on the actual label itself, the man at the helm of his boat. And that's because, like so many distilleries on Islay, Bunnahabhain has that lore and that connection to seafaring, that helmsman, because for the longest time before 1960, the only way to get to the distillery was via boat. Whether it was all of their ingredients, the barley, anything coming from off the island, and then shipping all of their whiskey over onto the mainland. It was all by boat, and it wasn't until 1960 when a beautiful single lane dirt road was added in that they could actually start bringing things in via the ground. So if you are actually ever do get to go out to Islay and visit, it is a bit of a hike. It is a bit of a trek to get there, and especially you're getting close to the distillery when that single lane dirt road comes about. But pray you are not driving toward the distillery on delivery day, because if a truck is coming back out of the distillery at the same time, it's not a wide road, and it's kind of it's bush and swamp on both sides, so you might have to back up a fair ways to find a place to get out of the way of the truck so you can actually get to the distillery itself and enjoy yourself and have a good time. But it was the seafaring history. It was Bunnahabhain's attention to that connection to the sea that really leans into what Bunnahabhain is all about. Now, one of the most fun things for me about the distillery is that, well, I mean, you guys have been doing your Monsters of Islay tastings for the last little while. You know that Islay is primarily all about smoke. It's all about that peat, that influence. And one of the great things I love about Bunnahabhain is that it's bold, it's daring to be different. They are the gentle dram of Islay, and one reason for that is that they have the tallest stills on the island, and these are copper monsters. I mean, these things are huge, and they only use about 50% of that capacity in order to get a lovely, delicate distillate coming off the still, because generally speaking, how the distillation process works. A shorter still is going to allow some of those oils that add some of that robust kind of punchy nature to whiskey. In that shorter still, they can get over and they can provide a ton of that character immediately. Whereas if you have a far taller still, the alcohol is no problem evaporating, because it evaporates at that lower alcohol or burning point. Boiling point, thank you, than some of the oils in there. So it's a lot more delicate. Less of those oils are coming through, and that allows that gentle nature of Islay to come through. And they lean into that. They're right against the ocean, so you've got that gorgeous sea salt water influence coming through on this. I'm just loving the briny coming through. And that's that briny influence. Their aging warehouses are right up against the Sound of Islay, right on the coast there. As the waves come crashing in, that sea salt water influence gets up into the air and just imbues itself inside those casks as they mature. Their 20 to 24,000 casks aging on site at any given time are just all pounded with that sea salt water air, and provides that awesome salty influence, provides that greatness. And they use their American oak. They use their American oak and sherry cask to get this great balance. And for me, this one, I literally almost said the name of it. That would have been fun to spoil the surprise there. I mean, you get that coming through on this one here. You definitely get that brininess, that balance. That, for me, I'm getting the sherry notes coming through on this one. Mike's getting confection. Werther's Original. What a great tasting note.
I love those things.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, yeah, it's else can I say about this one here? Now, we do actually have a newer master blender in the last few years. For a long time, it was Dr. Kirsty McCallum. She was holding down things for the Distell portfolio overall with Deanston, with Bunnahabhain, with Tobermory. But now it's Julianne Fernandez, and she's taken over, and she's working on the new Feis items that are coming out every year. There's a new one that we'll talk about a little bit when we get to the Marsala cask. There's a few new ones coming, but one has been announced. But that's it. I mean, if you get to visit the distillery, if you ever just give yourself the chance, it's Islay in general. Just go visit. It's so remote. It's so peaceful. It's so quiet. Don't expect going beach weather because, well, you know, Scotland. But you get there and the people are so lovely. The one hotel right nearby, you'll be having some great bunna served right from behind the bar. It's a place to go. It's a place to visit. Joss is getting a bit of coffee on the nose now. Oh, we've got water being added in here. Got the Fino finish. 20-year Palo Cortado. I've got that one behind me. I love that one. I have been slowly working on that one to make sure it doesn't go away forever. A lot of guesses here.
Great guesses.
Mm-hmm.
Highly varied guesses. I'm loving this.
Sorry, I've got my chat window open here. I'm not paying attention to you guys. I'm reading the chat to see what else everyone is getting coming through. All right. I mean, it's a beauty. And now, one of the cool things about Bunnahabhain, should we give it a couple more minutes for people to call in? Part of me was going to say it's Bunna 12, congratulations, just as a joke when it came out. But I mean, hey, the Bunna 12 is a beauty of a dram. But now, as I was saying, one of the things that's different and unique about Bunnahabhain Distillery is that they're the only distillery on Islay to use their own pure spring water. So the Markdale River, which is the river that Bunnahabhain is named for, the Markdale River, mouth of the river, leans into the Markdale Spring, which is where Bunnahabhain draws their water from. And so it's really the only distillery on Islay that doesn't have that influence of peat right off the get-go, because so much of the water on Islay is filtered by and influenced by that peat, that Bunnahabhain, using the Markdale Spring water source, allows that pure kind of light signature characteristic of Bunnahabhain to come through. Of course, we do have the peated additions, but yeah, it's one of the most important parts to it. It allows them to really get that, combine that with the tall stills, the only 50% capacity, allows that great, unique, distinct characteristic of Bunnahabhain that, I mean, it draws me back to it all the time, and it just makes it its own bold representation of what Islay is and what Islay can be. And I mean, considering just the outstanding amount of good whiskey that does come from Islay, it's nice to have a way to stand out and do something a little bit different. Alex is getting butterscotch caramel present. Nick's getting dry on the mouth. I kind of like winter right now. Yeah, Nick, I do agree with you. Man, these tasting notes. Okay, confession time. Most of my job is doing tastings at a more entry level. We'll do a tour of Scotland. We'll have a 12-year from Speyside and a 12-year from Islay and a 12-year from the Highlands, and we'll introduce people to Scotch tasting. So this is really nice. So thank you guys for
welcome to the New.Whiskyorder.
Yeah, I'm always happy to come out. I remember the first time, I think Ro reached out to me and got me in touch with Russell, and we did a Glendronach tasting about a year ago. And Russell told me the lineup that you guys wanted to do, and I was like, oh, yes. Like, this is great. So always happy to be back with you guys and to be doing a tasting with you guys of these beautiful, beautiful whiskeys.
Well, we're glad to have you, John. It has been a while, so
yes,
maybe
it has.
if you want to, I don't know if anyone else has been introduced to you or not.
Good point. I just kind of dove into it, didn't I?
No, that's fine. I think majority of us do know who you are and what brands you represent, but it might be a good time just do that, and then we'll move past this mystery dram and get to the meat and potatoes of this thing.
For sure. Yeah. So I am John MacPherson, and so I work with PMA Canada, and so a lot of brands have one national brand ambassador for one brand. But PMA decided to do things a little bit differently, and they made regional brand ambassadors. So I'm based out of Ontario, but I get to cover all of our Scotch. So I actually represent 12 different brands of Scotch, as well as a few bourbons, Canadians, Irish. So I've got Glenfiddich, Balvenie, Monkey Shoulder, Grants, Bunnahabhain, Deanston, Tobermory, Leitchik, Black Bottle, Glendronach, Benriach, and Glenglassaugh, as well as Tullamore Dew is my little Irish stepchild. I work with Woodford Reserve, Jack Daniels, Gibson's Finest. And so I get to work with a ton of different whiskeys. And so it's really fun for me to come in and get away from the core range. And I love the core range. I mean, I love all the 12 whiskeys that I represent, but it's really fun to try something a little bit different, especially with a group like you guys that have these outstanding palates and this interest in just furthering your whiskey game at all times. And so we did a really cool Glendronach tasting with the Whiskey Order last year, and then we did the Highlander. That was a really fun night. There was talk, for those of you based in Alberta, there was talk about hiring another version of me in Alberta. There is one in BC already, but check it out. We're always looking to bring people on, and it's one of the cooler parts. PMA as a whole doesn't own the brands, but William Grant & Sons is a part owner, Distell is a part owner, Brown Forman's a part owner, and they're the overarching owners of all of those different scotches. But happy to do it. And so, I mean, I was talking to Russell that I think there's a few more fun things we can do. I think it'd be fun to get a cool lineup from Benriach coming through here one day. Always fun to do some more Glendronach. Glenglassaugh's had some cool octaves stuff come through in the last little while. I know you guys have done a ton of Distell with Myke in the past, but you know what? They're always releasing new stuff from Bunnahabhain, Tobermory, and Deanston. So always happy to come back and chat whiskey and see what you guys are feeling. So Chick's already binned it.
Who's your the rep out in BC?
It's Joel Virginillo. So he's based out of Vancouver. I just got lucky in that I met with this group before he did, but you're always welcome to include him as well. He's, I think he is on Instagram at Liquicon. Yeah, he's another great person known. He can help people on the West Coast source stuff if you're looking for that. But this group doesn't really seem to have a problem with sourcing good stuff. So
That's because most of them are in Alberta.
Yes, well, there you go. And there was someone actually in Quebec. There wasn't right now, and I don't know if they didn't rehire during the pandemic after that person left, but who knows? They might re-add as the world gets back to it and we get another roaring 20s going here. But Colin, we are getting some good stuff coming in Ontario soon. At least, so good stuff for what the LCBO offers. There is a release of Glendronach 15 and 18 coming through probably in May. So keep an eye out. But as we were saying, Russell, you wanted to move past the mystery dram.
Yeah. Any final thoughts from anybody? Any guesses here? Oh, James Neal's here. Look at that.
What a well-dressed...
What a stud.
Sorry, guys, I was late. And it's the closing gala of Vancouver Cocktail Week, so... I was actually going to ask the same question to who is your BC guy, because I will definitely say hello. But good to see all you sexy looking people. And I just have to try and outdress you because my face is not as pretty as all of you. So
look at the daylight coming out of that window. Somebody's not on the same time zone as us.
No, it is 5 o'clock.
You're on the right coast. Attaboy.
All
right.
Myke.
Well, James, we've
Let's
been working through the mystery Bunna, and I think we're about ready for the reveal. So we'll do a little drum roll here, and after all those guesses,
boom,
we've got some Roman numerals. I don't know what that means. Is that 12?
So
No,
25.
no.
So this is the Bunnahabhain 25-year-old, but it is the older wooden box releases. So for a long time, they were in those gorgeous wooden boxes. They've since moved to the, I don't know if you can see it there, the kind of slide out case that we've got going there that like the Palo Cortado and other stuff came out in. But this is it. And it's, for me, especially if you're getting into high-end Bunnahabhains, this is a great way to start off the day because this is a core range Bunnahabhain release, which really shows you exactly what it can do, what Bunnahabhain can do with the core range, not just a limited one. And that's adjusted. The newer 25 is a little bit different. If you ever listen to Dr. Billy or David Brody on any of their tastings, they say the thing about Bunnahabhain is they do so much small batch stuff that every batch is going to be a little bit different. And so this being the 2011-25 year, it just goes to show, things do change over time, especially when when you're focusing on that small batch character that Bunnahabhain does. But B, again, this is a core release for Bunnahabhain. It's just a great intro to high-end Bunna. It's a great way to open up your palate. That 46.3% ABV right there is that great way to find that middle ground into stuff that we're going to be trying a little bit later. Like I think the Marsala is 53.6%. And it plays a little bit higher than that sometimes. And it's a high enough alcohol volume that you've got that really great ability to add a couple drops of water, as so many of you have been doing, and blow up new tasting notes. Whiskey Joe did a side-by-side with that one and said, no, that's all right. But again, they're all a little bit different. And you know what? So, the Gateway Beauty. That's exactly what it is. Story of the book.
I got your marketing department ready.
I'm probably going to have to ask to offer you a job tonight. Sorry, I've got some dad brain going on. I'm just stumbling all over my words tonight. Whiskey.
You probably haven't slept in 2 months. It's fine.
I think I got an hour last week.
Attaboy.
Same
all right.
bottle. Oh, that's interesting. All right.
Okay. On to the big boy now, I guess, eh?
Yeah. All right.
Oh, we had the 2.5. Let's go with the 4.5.
The 4.5. So we're just aging up just a touch. And as Mike was saying, I mean, this for me, this is the first time I've tried. I've had a purely 60s release. Again, there's been blends that have had stuff in it. I've had stuff. I think the oldest I most recently had, or oldest I've had, was a Glenglassa 39. But so this is definitely exciting. I mean, it's a cool look into something. But this is where things get a little bit tricky, because this isn't technically one of my releases, because it is Port Askaig. But as you know, Port Askaig likes to source their items from different places. But the nose on this one, as Russell just said, is unreal. And this is a really great look into the 1960s. This is a great look at, because it's fairly commonly well known that the Port Askaig 45-year-old is a Bunnahabhain distillate. It is something that came in the 1960s. And what's cool about this one is this was actually distilled during Hogmanay, which, for those of you that don't know, that's basically the equivalent of New Year's Eve celebrations, New Year's Day celebrations in Scotland. For a very long time, during the Scottish Revolution, Christmas was banned, more or less. You really couldn't celebrate Christmas in Scotland. They were getting away from all things commonplace with the UK, and they were trying something new and trying something different. And so for a very long time, Christmas was looked down upon. And even to this day, Hogmanay is kind of seen as more important than Christmas, especially in Scotland. So this is a celebratory whiskey made on one of the most fun big days of the year in Scotland. And I mean, the nose really, like, this really shows off the celebratory and shows off what 60s whiskey can be all about, what great whiskey can be all about. Because we were talking in the beginning, sometimes older stuff gets a little bit too woody, whereas this is certainly not having that problem. For me, this is exotic. Like there's a lot of tropical notes coming through on this one for me. Exotic fruits, like it's I could just sit and nose this all day. Like I got a touch of mango there for a second. Of course, non-chill filtered, non-color added, because of course. But and again, being Bunnahabhain, this is no peat included here whatsoever. Made from 5 refill sherry butts, and then again, of course, distilled on that Christmas, New Year's Eve, 1968. So sitting for 45 lovely years. I mean, oh, this is great. Slàinte, everyone.
Slàinte, everyone.
That's a treat.
Like some gorgeous citrusy notes. Definitely honey. Adam, agreeing with you right there. It's washing me over with honey there. Oh, I mean, that's gorgeous. Like the tropical fruit flavor is just kind of washing over and holding on and lasting. I mean, it is 40.8%, so it's sliding just over the wire there of what we're what we're looking for. But yeah, I mean that's just a beautifully crafted whiskey.
It's just a tropical fruit bomb.
It is. That's 100% what it is. Like it's like grown-up Kool-Aid. I mean, not like Kool-Aid that's been grown up, but Kool-Aid for grown-ups. Like this is gorgeous. Oh.
Nick, what do you figure? What do you think of this one? Always like hearing Nick's tasting notes. You got something for us?
It's fucking good.
All right.
I was with I don't know, I think Paul Bovis on Instagram. No, not Paul. Sean, Yeg Whiskey Nights, and we were talking like sometimes you want to get some flavor notes, but you just fuck, that's good. Oh, it's just good. It's just good, and drink all the whiskey and like fuck, I don't know what to write. It's just too good. You're just enjoying the whiskey, but I don't know. I have like kind of a pina colada kind of palette, like all tropical and thick, a bit like of whipped cream. You know, those blended pina colada or tropical drink you get in Hawaii. Like kind of that feeling in the mouth.
Where you remember the first one you had, but that's it?
The first pina colada I had. I remember the first drink I had in Hawaii. It was not pina colada. It was the blue. I was 16. Blue hypnotic bottle.
Yeah, it's nice when you puke. It's still the same blue.
Now, as the finish is going on for me here, it's almost showing a soft bitter note coming through, on just softly. That's like showing the oak. But sorry, I saw a comment in the chat a second ago, like nice legs for 40%, and I agreed wholeheartedly. Like this is special. This is beautiful. Oh,
I thought you were talking about my
guys...
legs when I stood up, John. Sorry.
Well, James, everyone admires your legs. Like it's if you want to get up and show us a little fashion show, we won't say no. Like that suit is cut perfectly. Now, one of the cool things that's actually happening at Bunnahabhain while you guys sit and enjoy your whiskey, I thought this was pretty cool because I'm into kind of the green nature of the world and kind of trying to improve our processes. But Bunnahabhain is actually becoming the first distillery on Islay that's going to be, it's basically introducing a new energy center that's going to make net zero emission distillation process on Bunnahabhain at the distillery. And what they're doing is, so it's this, basically they're utilizing biomass, and they're utilizing both that natural resources nearby, which is like deadfall from the nearby forests about 15 miles away, but also using the spent grains from the whiskey making process. And basically, they're burning this biomass, which then in turn is used to heat basically a giant pool of water above that process to make steam to create their own energy. And so Bunnahabhain's looking to maintain their footprint in the actual the world of making whiskey. They want to make sure that they're giving back. And so it's again, because they're using locally sourced fueling systems. So in the forest, there's a few different types of wood. Essentially, there's stuff that can be used for lumber. There's stuff that can be used for fuel, and then there's just the kind of useless stuff. And they're taking the useless stuff that isn't good for fuel, isn't good for lumber. It's low value timber essentially, and they're chipping it up. They're using this biomass. They're using it with the are we losing the screen? And they're basically making this rich biomass that will essentially allow the distillery to give back and make sure that they're net zero carbon. And it's actually going to allow them to make up for basically, I think it's 3,500 pounds of 3,500 tons of carbon per year. So they're making sure they're being responsible environmentally, making sure that they're doing their part to preserve the world that we've got right now. And I think it's a really cool step that they're taking to be responsible. I know a ton of distilleries are looking into that. I think everyone on Islay has to do that by 2030. I think it is 2040.
2030.
Thank you. And so that's exactly it. And they've really started this cool process. And so it's another great thing to check out. Again, if you get to go to the distillery, if you get to visit it, go out and check out the biomass center and see what they're doing to do their part on Islay. But I thought that was a really cool part that should be shared, and especially the Scotch industry in general is stepping up responsibility, managing peat usage, managing carbon footprints, and I think it's really cool, great initiative. Myke, seeing candy floss and lime slushy, a carnival midway in a glass. You really do need to be working in the marketing industry.
Yep. As long as I get to drink the whiskey, I'll work for whiskey.
That's fair. I can't.
The problem is, John, he's in Hamilton, so he's coming for your Ontario gig.
Oh, well, I'll fight you.
I'll work remote. I'll work remote for Alberta. It's fine.
That works. So what do we think overall, gents? I'm loving have we seen Simon's tasting notes come through? His tasting note for the 25 was unreal. Simon, you still typing it up? Definitely want to see that when that comes through. Yeah, again, Nick, the nose, I could slowly sit here and
Simon just
enjoy
copy
that.
paste from what he sees on the internet. It's all good. Simon, I'm kidding.
Oh, that's awesome. Have any of you guys ever tried any of the other aged up Bunnahabhains in the past? I want to hear what you guys think about comparatively, or even other just whiskeys in this age range. I know Russell's thinking about it.
How many different whiskeys have I had that are 45 years old?
Or even comparatively thinking, have you had something in this kind of range that's this wildly tropical in comparison?
Ball Blair.
Okay, yeah.
Which one was that? I think that was the 80. I think what year that was. Cadeau, what year was that, Ball Blair? From the Mario, you submitted that one. Which one was that?
Was it 1983 or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's got the same type of flavor profile. This one's a little bit more.
This is milder.
Food.
Yeah.
That's fair. And so, Nick, you were saying weirdly has a connection with the Deanston 40. I mean, they are sibling distilleries, but not back then they weren't, I guess.
No, just in the like the fresh note, it feels so fresh and light. In that sense, compared to the 86 Canasta, the 36-year-old Canasta, which is like a bomb of flavors. This is very light, very well mastered and balanced. So that's why I thought like, oh, the Instant 40, not for the flavor profile necessarily, but for the like general feel of it.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, hey, it's makes sense. And then, sorry, I was just reading Brandon's comment in the chat. What was it about the Deanston or the Buna 30, Brandon? If I can ask.
Didn't seem to be a fan favorite. I don't know what it was. I just didn't. I'm trying to look at notes. It was one of the blind tastings that we did, and we were all surprised that it was the Buna 30.
All right, fair enough. But do you know what year it was, or what edition? I'm just curious.
I don't know, Russell. Do you know which one it was that you had put in the David and Goliath? It was the first sample.
I don't remember how you guys like even remember half these first samples of all these tastings that we do because they get so loose.
I was
'Cause
just
everyone got it
admiring
wrong.
that myself. Like it's the amount of like I just see these different like events rolling through my feed all the time. I'm like, geez.
I got notes.
Do you have like a master like notebook that's just pages on pages of scribbles and like, oh, Brandon, yes. That's awesome. Oh man. Well done. Like that's admirable. That's very cool. That is very, very cool. So it was the new 30-year release, like most recent then.
Yeah, sorry, I was busy doing other stuff. But yeah, if you guys were referring to the one in David versus Goliath, that was the brand. At that time, it had just been released. It was the 30-year.
Interesting.
It got it didn't fare so well, John, unfortunately. But you know, they can't all be winners.
These things happen. I mean, you know what? It is what it is.
But
Yeah.
you know, to be honest, I would take that 30-year-old over this one.
Over the 45.
Yeah. The nose on this one is incredible, but I'm not impressed with the palate.
Well, I got a 30 with your name on it then, because that 30 did not work for me.
There you go, Steven. You speak up, and there you go. You win.
No, I've had the Buna 40 in a tasting, and that one didn't do it for me either. But then you get into that 30s, and it just seems to be a nice spot for Buna.
Fair enough. All right. Well, shall we?
Go ahead.
Oh no, you go ahead. I was going to continue on our merry way, but if there's more to say here, by all means, please.
No, I was just going to say, I know that, going way back, we've definitely done, and this might have been actually with Myke Breezebaugh, but some of the older Buna 40 tastings, and they all kind of had that that dusty old library book smell. They kind of like mellow out and kind of have that, that sort of vintage to them. This one I didn't get that though, so it was kind of interesting. I was definitely looking for that, knowing it was Bunnahabhain and kind of in that 40-ish year range. But I liked how the nose and the palate managed to kind of hold on nicely to those fruity notes.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's great. It's cool to see how a few different the differences you can get between a 40 and a 45, depending on what was used. I mean, these are the 5 refill sherries, so it's always cool to see what else you can get from the same distillery. But yeah, shall we continue on our merry way here so we don't keep you guys going all night? Because I don't want to keep James waiting all too long.
I have a closing ceremonies party to go to.
Well, in that case, let's just slam the Marsala.
I'm kidding. I got another 2 hours with you guys if I need, so I'm good.
All right.
Yeah, it's time for a Feis shots.
Feis shots. I do love. Oh, anybody else getting an echo, or is that just me?
Echo's gone now. I think we're good.
Wonderful. All right. Well, then in that case, I heard the word Feis, so let's go enjoy ourselves. So this is from the 2021 Feis release. This is the 2001 Marsala Cask finish. And this one, what can you say here? Like the nose, and we're taking a big leap in certainly in ABV here right now. We're going from that 40.8 up to the 53.6%.
Oh,
Again, bring on the tasting notes. I want to hear the noses here. Like I'm getting cherry here. Almost like some licorice. Oh, Steven's getting into it. All right. Good to hear, Steven. Big nuts. Thanks, Nick.
the licorice on this really stands out, John.
Yes.
Like it
Absolutely.
is so pronounced within this dram. It's wild, actually.
Yeah. No, I'm picking that up. Like I got the cherries kind of when my nose touched to it, and then
this is
boom,
like
hello licorice.
And it's like dirty, proper British English like licorice. It's not good licorice. It's like, and not in a bad way, but it's that like.
No, I agree. Yeah.
It's the licorice that people don't like in the world, but that's the nose you have in here. It's that popping licorice.
Yes, and it kind of comes to the forefront, and it's unashamed of what it is, and it's just, oh, that's beautiful. Mm.
What a difference from that Askaig. Whereas the Askaig was all about balance and tropical fruit. This one is just power and wine.
Yeah, absolutely. And
We're also 13% ABV difference.
Yeah,
exactly. Might have something to do with that.
I mean, just a touch. I'm getting a huge apple note right off of that one for myself. Like some stone fruits coming off on this one. Of course, that classic Bunnahabhain nuttiness that you're getting out of this one.
Yeah.
Oh, Adam getting the candied oranges and the leather brine. The leather is more of I think a tobacco leaf for me in this case, but still really lovely. Toffee coming off of Stephen. Coffee and tiramisu. Oh, right. Oh, and again, it's not coming off hot for certain for me. Like the 53.6% is definitely not an aggressive 53.6.
I would never guess this is 53. I don't think.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's kind of interesting. When we tried the 25, it was coming at 46%, and we were getting some guesses of some mid 50s. Whereas with this one coming in at the mid 50s, and I would say high 40s, to be honest, in my own.
Yeah, 46, 48 is kind of where I fell in the ballpark of the 48% with this for sure. It drinks really smooth. That's all those tannins and those rich tannins from the Marsala, right?
Exactly.
You get those rich flavors showing through, and they just balance out that ABV.
Do you do this for a living? It seems like you know what you're talking about.
Been around the block, John.
Once, twice, 3 times, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean this is a really another just kind of great example of what of Bunnahabhain with the Feis. And have you guys heard anything about at least Bunnahabhain's done the announcement of their first Feis 2022 release. So it's going to be a unpeated one at their most accessible price point with this one, not officially announced yet. But it is I'm going to mess up this pronunciation, but it's the Laphroaig Abv, and it is small PX octaves that they're putting it in this one. 50.8% Oloroso and bourbon matured. So that will be released for the Feis release. Bunnahabhain Day is on Friday, June 3rd of 2022. I know they are looking to do the in-person element, so it probably will be a little bit harder to get hands-on unless you're at the distillery in person this year, depending on what happens with the world. Not probably officially coming to Canada. Of course, there are the ways that people get it, but they haven't really fully announced how it will be disseminated, because the past 2 years with COVID, they've been doing it virtually, and so that you've been able to get it more easily via the online market. Generally, if all goes according, officially, if all goes according to plan, then we will probably going to be a little bit harder to get if you're not there in person. So that said, Russell will be funding a trip for all 22 of us to go in early June. He's paying for it himself. Thanks, Russell.
You're
And if
welcome.
you're busy that week, he'll just ship you a bottle free of charge.
Yes, exactly. He is the original philanthropist of the whiskey community.
Yes.
But I mean, it is exciting to see that it does feel like the world is getting back to normal a little bit. But honestly, COVID has done some pretty unique things for the whiskey community by like bringing everyone closer together, like these virtual tastings, getting people to meet others that they wouldn't have had a chance maybe to meet otherwise, just by creating this awesome online community. And I love seeing the different drams being shared across the community, and seeing the tasting challenges going on, and of course this I don't know how else to put it other than never-ending onslaught of awesome whiskeys being tasted by this group here. And I think that's really cool. I think it's a really unique thing that you guys have managed and gotten to happen. But as far as the Feis 2022 release, I know this is named for a river just not too far away from the distillery itself. Not too far, I believe, from actually Bunnahabhain Forest, just to the west of the distillery itself. In fact, I should check David Brody's Twitter, because he goes for walks in that area all the time. And you know what? It's entirely possible he's walked over the bridge that crosses this very river itself. But I think the 2022 release is going to be super cool, super interesting. I'm seeing a ton of octaves coming through, octave releases with those smaller cask sizes coming through in general from a bunch of the different distilleries. But in the meantime, we've got this gorgeous 2021 release with this Marsala doing the trick just fine to keep us a little bit happy. But I'm always curious to see what of the three that we've tried tonight, do we have any favorites?
It's just too good.
Joss has got a tie between 2 and 3. Ooh, strawberry. Thanks, Simon. All right.
Simon's been so quiet tonight.
I heard he was going through the drive-thru a few minutes ago. At least I think that's what I saw. Look at these notes. We've got 3, then 1, then 2.
That's a good pairing with Bunnahabhain.
We've got so Jake saying the 25, then the 45, then the Marsala. Colin saying 45-25 Marsala. Reggie with the 45 nose and the Feis taste. I kind of agree with that. The nose on the 45 is just unreal, but I really dug the palate on the Marsala. I can feel that. But Russell, I do agree with you. The 25 is still a pretty very reasonable price point, and definitely accessible, definitely enjoyable, definitely something that I wouldn't ever be unhappy to have coming through. But definitely something unique, something fun to try with this lineup. So Russell, thank you very much. I'm always happy to do an event with you guys. And so if you're looking to do something else in the future, please by all means feel free to give me a call. Ben Riek, I think, would be a fun one, especially with all the different single cask releases they've been doing. So Russell, I'll shoot you a message and see if we can find a way to pull together a fun lineup. And
Absolutely.
have you guys ever done like a Battle of Speyside out of curiosity?
No, we haven't.
I'm not going to make a joke. I'm going to keep it.
Please make the joke. Bring the joke,
do
James.
it.
I need to hear it.
I mean, yeah, no, it's good. No, we're good.
No holds barred here, James. Don't just let her go.
This is NWO, right? Like WCW, I'm coming off the top rope.
Yeah.
The Battle of Speyside. That's like watching Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera fight.
There it is. I was waiting for you to come up with that.
Pop culture 101, everybody. I'm kidding.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot, John. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm going to stick around and heckle James while we enjoy some of the fight here, I think.
John, I want you to actually do stay on.
Yeah, start out with a Thai tutorial from James here.
Yeah, this is a 15-step tie that I do. So just so we're clear.
Looks like
Well, that would be a fantastic lineup. Thank you, Russell, for putting that together. Thank you, James, for walking us through that fantastic range.
That wasn't James who did that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Thanks, James.
Sorry, John. It's been a long day. I got a kid too.
Right.
Thank you, John. That was
Thank you very much.
That was a lovely little journey there. But now let's get our smoke on. We got James Neal, our good friend and frog rep. It's time to shift gears a little bit.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. First and foremost, my first thanks does go to John. That was an awesome presentation, John, and thank you for sharing some of the notes and some of these whiskeys with us, because and I'm sure you do the same thing. As ambassadors, we can sometimes we literally can get caught up in our own world, and we don't get to taste enough of what's else is out there. And Myke and I have always had a great relationship. We're friends. And John, it's great to hear how you guys have adapted at PMA, and you guys have done a great job, to be honest with you, in adaptation. So I'm just glad that we still have someone representing some of the great whiskeys coming out of the PMA brand. So thank you, John, for doing exactly what you do. And yeah, and I don't know about you, but I can't wait to just get back out. I just actually wrote down my schedule. I don't think I have a week off literally until July. It's nuts how much the world has opened up. And if you don't know me, I think everybody on this call probably does, but maybe somebody doesn't. I've done enough of these with the NWO, but I love working with you guys. My name is James Neal. I am the luxury brand ambassador for Beam Suntory, so I take care of our Scotch and our Irish portfolio. With that being said, if you follow me on Instagram, stop. My old Instagram account was hacked. I want to make this very clearly known. And World Whiskey is no longer. Do not follow that. I have zero control over that, even though it's still my face, which is a pretty picture. But that's not me, and I don't know what's going on there, and I don't have any say on it. So World Whiskey Canada is my new following. So if you want to follow me at World Whiskey Canada, I think most of you probably already have, and I thank you for that. I think I've gone up about 300 followers in a couple of weeks. So I hacked it instead of learning how to tie a tie. Cute. All right, Russell, settle down. And yeah. All right. And no, I'm not putting on sweatpants to the other comments that were made earlier. I don't live in sweatpants. I live in suits and ties. I've been working all day doing tastings. So we're about tasting number 4. So I'm in perfect form to go through this one with you guys. Well, let's get into the mystery tasting. So you've got your dram poured. I'm in a hotel, as you can see, so I'm limited in my glassware choices. I actually prefer to use white wine glasses, to be honest with you, for whiskey tastings when I don't have a Glencairn. They work really, really well. Cheers. Now, this one's up to you guys. You guys get to take us through the tasting notes and the mystery. And I love the fact that you did this, by the way. And I don't know whose idea it was. You won. This was so much fun to see these come in. And I think this is a great way to... Everybody here is really knowledgeable. And John mentioned this in his last presentation. And it goes back to saying, like, these aren't rudimentary presentations we're doing with you guys. We're hanging out with guys who literally have the same amount of knowledge that we do, and it's so amazing. So we get here we go, smoky band-aids. Welcome to the world of Laphroaig. So I love the fact that you guys get to kind of really get involved in this and start giving us some of these cool flavor notes that we're seeing. Burnt rubber, I'm already getting excited. So Brandon, you're looking very intensely into that camera, but you're so quiet.
Brandon is jacked for this tasting, aren't you, Brandon? No one is as happy to have this tasting as Brandon was. I think I actually set the date specifically just to make sure it worked for Brandon. He's a diehard Laphroaig fan, and Buna for that matter.
Wow, Laphroaig at its worst.
Any guesses on what this is at this point?
I'm going to go off. I'm going to keep my camera on, but I'm going to look at the chat. I can only see so many notes here. I'm on my phone, guys.
Again. Holy.
I know what it is. One I don't have.
Who said that? Steven, that was you? Oh, Nick is making a guess. Whiskey Joe comes in. Whiskey Joe, have you had the 32-year-old? I have the two 30-year-olds from the Ian Hunter series. And if anybody has a bottle of the 25-year-old Bessie Williamson series, let me know. I'd like to find it.
Any guesses on the ABV on this one?
45, 46.
Nick, do you think you know what this is?
I'll take a guess, but I really don't know. I know it's not the Laphroaig I liked. I like my Laphroaig like I don't like my Ardbeg, so a bit mellowed down. I just want to say Pig's Cask because it's like very Laphroaig, but a little bit turned down. And I've never had it, so I really have like no idea. It's very drinkable for a Laphroaig.
Yeah, I definitely want to say it's like 47% is what's coming to me right there on my head. Like it shows a bit more on the tail end of it, but right off the bat, like it's not hot at all. Like it's lovely.
Yeah, for me, those notes come towards the end, and I think what's funny about this is I think with this particular Laphroaig, the tasting notes off the back end of this can come off as heat, but it's not. It's actually like we get stuck in that concept of maybe it's a heat, but it's actually a tasting note that we're getting. So it's funny because this one can be a little bit tricky, but yeah, it's funny to see some of the guesses here. Not syrupy enough for PX, but sherry influence for sure. John?
Ooh, sherry oak.
If you mean PX from this year, for sure, no. No, it's... Sorry, I just gave that part away. Yeah, no, it's not the Carchus PX. I'll tell you that.
I don't think it's sherry oak either. I have that one and love it.
Crazy how nose and palate are very different for me. Like the nose is so classic Laphroaig, but the palate you get some wine influence, some maybe sherry. I'm not too sure, but like it's very different experience.
I'm glad you said that because this is something that I always bring up with Laphroaig. So if we think about Laphroaig, I don't know many whiskeys that come off so consistently on the nose, but then the palate is so extremely different in so many very different ones, and it can really get open. So that's one thing I love about Laphroaig, because you can sit there and nose it and you're like, oh, this is going to be like, oh, this is Laphroaig. And if you don't love Laphroaig, it's a very painful experience to go through. If you love it, you get excited about it, but then you could be very disappointed in the flavor profile because we are so vast in the flavor profiles, but the nose is so similar. And I do find that, and you know, on a very basic entry level Laphroaig of Laphroaig Select as an example, you smell that and you're like, oh, there's Laphroaig, and then you drink it and it's all of a sudden you're sucking on like this vanilla oak stave and you're like, okay, wow, this is what this is. So it's really interesting to hear some of you guys speak about this and talk about that nose and some of those traditional notes that we know in Laphroaig: iodine, band-aids, some and everyone's kind of seems to be along the line of bringing up some type of sherry, whether it's PX or Oloroso. There's a couple of guesses in here.
Well, let's get to the reveal, I guess, eh? Well,
Russell, that's all you. I think you should reveal this one.
Oh, it's not the 28.
Yeah.
I threw this one in there just I know it's a travel exclusive from a few years back. Just figured it was, yeah, Nick did know it. He called it earlier.
He called it. He was the first one to call it. He typed it in. He's like, PX Cask. I was like, damn, that's impressive.
Yeah, I think it's.
And I've never had it.
It's from 2013. It isn't widely regarded as being very good. So in a way, I was kind of glad to throw it into it in a blind tasting just to see if maybe, you know, a travel exclusive that's, you know, not all that valuable cash wise would how it would score blind in a lineup with some stunners. So yeah. I don't know.
Love the timing for this one, Russ, because the PX Carchus is out. Everybody's had it recently. A lot of us even have bottles of the Carchus in our cabinet, so it's kind of nice to bounce these two off each other.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it comes out with a very different flavor profile, and I didn't even know what it was, and then when. Oh, geez, I suck at name memory. Who sent me the kit?
Yeah, it was
I
me,
did.
James.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, Jeff.
did.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jeff. And Jeff, when you were like, yeah, what's your address? I'm going to send you the kit. And I was like, what the hell's the mystery? Like, and I only got the kit last week. So I didn't know what we were doing. And when this was in there, I was kind of like in the back of my head going, I like the call as a mystery dram. I think it's a fun introduction into this series because now it gets a little bit more intense. Now we go into some of the things that are literally legendary in the Laphroaig lineup and that have so much staying power that are so collectible. The 28-year-old and the 25-year-old, you guys know that that's what's in front of you. And they just drink so bloody well. So now we get into some of the fun stuff. Sherry Oak, I think, has more sherry punch. This one, I would have never guessed PX. I find the PX comes out in the back end of it. If you just, I think with this one, you have to wait a little bit. You're right. It's that Pedro Jimenez is that it bites at the end of it all and starts kind of shining through with the rich tannins. Very almost. If somebody had guessed a red wine cask influence, I wouldn't have been shocked either. So I can see all those flavor profiles coming out now. So we are going to let's do the 25-year-old. There's not a big difference in the ABV. Myke and I discussed this earlier because I always do typically by ABV order, but there's not a big enough difference between these two because they're both very cask strength focused. So, but once we get into 25 and 28 and, almost, we're talking quarter of a century here of aging whiskeys, your ABV it's all going to fall down to a very much lower level. But those rich tannins. So we talk about ABV, and so many people in the whiskey industry and a lot of you guys, and I see the chats go on and I start laughing sometimes and they're like, I want higher ABV. I want higher ABV. This isn't a bourbon culture. And I don't say that in a knock to bourbon. It's two different worlds. The fact that the longer we age single malt Scotch whiskey, ABV is going to keep on crashing in these barrels. So, if we start releasing cask strength at 25 years old, like we're about to drink right now with a 25-year-old, this particular one was bottled literally in 2014. And as you can see, Oloroso and bourbon barrels, 45.1%. You guys do your tasting notes on this one. And as we talk about Laphroaig, this week was actually a pretty big week. So I'm here in Vancouver this week, doing Vancouver Cocktail Week. Yes, we're making cocktails with Scotch. Sorry for some of you, not sorry for all of you, because we also had we did a Bowmore masterclass with some wicked pairings at the Blue Water Cafe. But this week was a big week for me and Laphroaig, and if you follow World Whiskey Canada, you'd see I did put a post up a couple of nights ago. Tuesday was what day? Bueller.
The 8th, I think.
Somewhat correct, John.
Was that
I wasn't paying. All I heard was Tuesday was what day. I wasn't paying too much attention. Sorry.
Somebody said it there, and I don't know who it was. International Women's Day. Laphroaig is the first distillery in all of Scotland to be owned and operated by a woman. 1954, Bessie Williamson, a legendary person in the whiskey industry. And not just, she doesn't get to be legendary just because she's a woman and was the first one to do it. She gets to be legendary, actually, because she's the one who took Laphroaig literally on the global scale. Ian Hunter was great at doing a lot of innovation within the brand, and he was the last family bloodline to own the distillery. He was a bit of a quirky guy, and he wasn't necessarily, he could sell anything to anybody, but he wasn't the best person socially. Bessie is the one who literally took it to a kind of different level and made it really the vision that it is today. She understood that in order for us to be the global brand that we are now, they were likely going to have to sell the distillery to one of the bigger conglomerates. And as we've grown now, in the hands of Beam Suntory. But it was her kind of vision that saw that. And there's something about that it just kind of resonates with me. And every time I talk about Laphroaig, and I always make this comment, and some people in the whiskey biz will challenge me. John's like, oh, bull crap. No, I'm kidding. Laphroaig, in my honest, and this is if I could take myself out of my role, this would be as unbiased as I could be. I think Laphroaig is actually one of the most influential single malt Scotch brands in Scotch history. And I say that for a couple of reasons. Okay, 1954, yes, first women owner operator. That's cool. But let's talk about the influence of American oak into Scotch history. Ian Hunter was one of the first people during Prohibition understanding sherry was a dying, wasn't a spirit, it's a fortified wine of choice, but it was the number one selling alcoholic beverage across the globe for so many years. Well, sherry dies out. And once sherry starts dying out for phylloxera outbreak and so many other reasons in the world, taxations, trade wars, literally between that market space specifically in England, and it really changed the world. So he gets into there, and Ian Hunter has this vision of saying, "Hey, let's go," and he goes over to the United States of America, knowing that they're in Prohibition, they aren't making whiskey anymore, and they didn't have the same laws that they do now today. So they had barrels, and he knew they had an excess amount of barrels. You start studying basic, structure and science into the barrel industry. It takes 60 to 80 years to grow American oak. European oak, 80 years plus to 100 years. Japanese, 120 years. So cost effectiveness also of doing business with the Americans just made more sense. When he went over in the 1920s, not only did he go over to get an experiment with some American oak barrels, but he was actually literally, Laphroaig was being sold in a green bottle on a shelf in drugstores as a medicinal product, because that's what he presented it as. Now, if you tasted Laphroaig in the 1920s, you would have agreed it probably was very medicinal-like. Some people drink it today and they think it's very medicinal-like. That's what we love about Laphroaig. You love us or you hate us, and we're okay with it. We accept who we are every single time. This particular, thank you, Russell. I know you're a fan as well, so that's not shocking to see that comment, but I gotta find out which glass this is. 25-year-old. This is a great one. Actually, the first time I had this was with the New.Whiskyorder when we did one of our tastings. We had Simon on the call as well, which was amazing. And this is one of those tastings that you can just get into. And this 25-year-old is something of beautiful, beautiful whiskey. Oloroso, bourbon, quarter of a century. And you guys have posted a lot of notes in the chat group. I'm working from my phone. As by the way, guys, just so we're clear, laptops do not need water to grow. So don't pour water on your laptops. It's not a good idea. Hence why I'm on my phone. Fuzzy peaches, like it. There's
James, just taking off my ambassador hat too. I agree with you with your comments about the influence. Like Laphroaig's done some wicked things to not only just grow like the influence of what they've done, but just renown in the industry and drawing people in to say, here, try this. Like, you want something different. You want something that's the amount of times you look on like any Facebook group and someone says, what's your favorite? And it's just, you see Laphroaig pop out all the time. And it has this magic about it. And I agree with you wholeheartedly about all your comments in the beginning there about the influence.
Yeah, Brandon, I'm not sure what you want me to say about the 2014 personally in particular, or sorry, Joss. Like what other, I can speak to it, but if you look above, we've got a lot of great notes in here that are not like they're point on. So if you have another question, like a little bit more specific, I might be able to answer it. And if I can't, I'll get you the answer.
What I really like about these Laphroaigs, when we start getting, over 20 years old into that quarter century vibe, is the medicinal is still there, the smoke is still there, the punch is still there, but this seems to be when that tropical fruit starts to come out. When you get some of that, roasted, seared pineapple. When you get the kiwis, it's just such a nice transition into a completely different style of whiskey.
Myke, and that is a beautiful call out. So, and I don't know how many of you have been to Laphroaig, but if you ever get a chance to taste the new make at Laphroaig, all those tropical fruit flavors are there. In our younger Laphroaigs, they often get buried by that peat flavor that we're so famous for. And that iodine, that medicinal kind of peat that comes over everything, it buries those tropical fruits. But the longer we go through that maturation process, more of that new make spirit really rises to the forefront, and it's balanced out with the beautiful tannins in the oaks. And we really start showcasing those tropical fruit notes. So, Myke, that's a perfect call out. And screaming baby. Okay, John. So it's a perfect call out, because as we get 25 years and up in most Laphroaigs, all of these things start coming out. Weird tasting note. What is it? Screaming babies? That's not a tasting note, but that's funny, actually, if that's what you meant. Because some people might drink the 10-year-old and go, screaming baby. I love it when Laphroaig does exactly what it's doing. It's getting laughs, and we talk about kind of a little bit off-kilter things that people would never think that you're going to hear in a tasting note profile. And trust me, no one ever go on to another tasting and repeat screaming baby as a note, because it's not going to fly as funny as it would with this group. But absolutely a beautiful, stunning whiskey, and I'm so happy that you guys were able to make this happen.
I'm excited to compare this to the 28.
All right,
Yeah.
let's get at it.
Traditional year is going to do.
Good question. Good question. All right, I gotta rinse out a glass here, because I want to. Great call out on doing the side by side, because it's going to be very different. One of the tricks with the 28, it does see its final year in the sherry cask. So when we get to the 28, it's going to be a little bit different in that flavor profile, for sure. And when you go through some of these reviews online, sometimes it gets pretty funny. But side by side, we're literally talking within 1% difference in ABV. This one is coming in at 44.4. Something that John had brought up in the last conversation about also being carbon neutral and impacting the environment. I don't know, many of you probably do, but Laphroaig is still the only distillery in all of Scotland to hand cut all of our own peat from our own site. And I think those are some of the things that really stand out. That Royal Warrant, that little 3 hearts with a little foliage wrapping around it at the top of every bottle that we have in our logo, that's a Royal Warrant. It's not a Royal Seal. A Royal Seal is what you get for doing a good job one time in your life. Royal Warrant, we have to qualify every year with the royal family. Prince Charles, the Queen are very big fans of the Laphroaig, and they're quite attuned to it. And the Royal Warrant is actually accredited to us every single year, based on the fact we give back. Tell Liz we say hi. That's awesome. Credited back to what we give back to the community and the environment. Hand cutting our own peat is how we give back to the environment. All of you guys are whiskey people. You know the environmental impact of the machinery in cutting peat being used for distilleries. It's really tough, and those peat bogs don't grow back as well. And that's when all these crazy urban myths and legends start. Oh, we're going to run out of peat. We aren't. But we do need to understand the environmental impact that we're having, not only just on the peat bogs themselves, but the CO2 emissions that that carbon footprint is pretty large. The responsibility of Laphroaig to hand cut it still to this day is amazing. There's give or take 130 distilleries in all of Scotland. Under 10 of them have their own malting floors, and Laphroaig is one of them. And we love that. So it really speaks to that traditional method that we've used year after year. And we'll never stop doing that. Most of you also know that Mr. John Campbell has recently left Laphroaig. So I didn't really pick up on this until it was brought up to me the other day doing a tasting. And seeing his name on a bottle is a little bit weird all of a sudden. And it's going to be weird. We have Barry McCaffer, who's taken over. So Barry's been with our company for a long time. Barry is about as good as it gets. I can't wait. I'm actually excited to see a different set of eyes managing the distillery, to be very honest with you. I think Barry's going to do a fantastic job. Ron still does a lot of the, Ron is the Beam Centauri Master Blender, and he's going to be very involved with a lot of the new expressions and innovation. But I'm really, really excited to see Barry McCaffer take over this legendary brand and kind of see where he takes it. So it's going to be pretty exciting to see Barry get in there. He's been around Laphroaig a long time, so I'm not too worried about him. But that's a better of a whiskey. It's a better of a whiskey.
It's a belter.
Belter. Oh, working from phone, font is small. It's not that I'm old and can't see.
I was gonna question the eyesight, but no, it's a beauty. That's an actual belter. I love that.
This is so Laphroaig 28-year-old, by the way, guys. I mean, the fact you're getting to drink it tonight is awesome. I don't even think I have a bottle on my back bar right now. It's pretty hard to find. Again, we're going to give Russell's phone number out at the end of this call, so you guys can all call him personally. Butterscotch. And I'm reading through notes right now, so if you look at me and you see my thumb on the camera, I apologize. Vanilla, it does stand out like crazy. Marmalade, orange. You know what's really cool about this one? When I get to the back end, so all these ripe fruits come out right at the front of it for me, but when I get to the back end, I start going down this green leaf tobacco, and it just gives it the right amount of spice and balance for me. And drinking and enjoying this whiskey, it's always one that really stands out. And 28-year-old is absolutely one of my favorites that we have in the lineup.
So I'll be shut down by it's my school computer, so I'll get like shut down because it needs to, like, I don't know, reload. Can I just say before leaving, like, the two best whiskeys of the night, in my opinion, were the two blind tasted. Experience-wise, like, wow, maybe not the best whiskey taste-wise, but experience-wise, like, it throws you off. And it's amazing what you say, what you think, and then you get slapped in the face. And I think I would, like, pay $200 just to get proven wrong by other people, and just legit. Good job, Russell. Putting this together was amazing.
Thanks. Yeah, that's a very good point. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Russell, we've done a lot of blind tastings in the group, and we've done different styles. And I did my little blinding flights tour, and we had a lot of cool things that went down. Maybe we should talk, and we should do literally a blind tasting. We'll give people a fair shot at it, though, because everybody on here is relatively well experienced. Give them the brand or two brands that are similar, just like we did tonight with John and I. And John and I could pair up. We could do, maybe we go down to some of the more peated things, but we do literally like 4. It's going to take longer to get through a blind tasting, so maybe 4 blind tastings. And have some really good fun in there and really mix it up. That could be a very cool thing to do, where we don't know any drams other than the people presenting.
Yeah, for sure. I think that I kind of did that with the David versus Goliath, but
Yeah. Absolutely. That
You
was
throw in,
that's a lot of work, dude.
yeah, well, I'm not afraid of work, and I got a lot of people helping me along the way. Guys like Jeff and Nick and Mike and all those guys. So we're not afraid of doing the work here. But I guess often I think when I put together a blind tasting, I often put myself in the people that are buying its position and think, okay, well, clearly I don't know what I'm buying. Like, what am I getting here? What's the value? Also, I put myself in a position where I'm like, if I'm buying this kit, would I want to taste $1,000 whiskey blind, or would I rather know? Or is blind tastings exclusive for the $200 to $400, $500 range? That's something that I've often wondered. I mean, some people may think that if they drank $1,000 to $2,000 bottle blind, they might kind of be upset that they actually didn't know what it was ahead of time. I don't know. It's good discussion, though.
Yeah,
I'd like to hear anyone else's thoughts.
yeah, it's definitely something to bring up on the forum, guys. Definitely feel free. There
I
you go,
think it's
Jeff.
more of an issue of it sucks when that Bunnahabhain 12 is better than that $1,000 bottle.
Yeah, that's actually the blessing of the whole thing is, I don't mind ripping a whiskey apart blind. Like, that's what it's for. But I also love it when there's a $300 bottle that outshines a $1,000 bottle. Like, that's what it is all about. When I'm sitting there looking at all the final scores and I see the bottles that are taking over, and I'm just like, wow, this is what the whiskey is all about, like that's what this community is all about. Is, I don't know.
We saw it during
$300,
David and Goliath.
$1,000.
We had a lot of big value bottles that were sent in that didn't pan out well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The
It's
one
not
that
that
I
they were bad whiskeys. They just didn't compete with some of the others in the same category.
yeah, for sure.
And that's also important to know. It's not about ripping apart a whiskey. It's about, for the most part, I don't think I've had a bad whiskey with you guys, to be honest.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, I don't mean like rip. I guess for the value, you just think, I guess when you start equating scores to the actual price point, and
Right.
I guess that's what you mean by ripping it apart. I don't think that anyone really had any really bad drams from some of our blind tastings, but
Other than everything
David versus
Breezeball
Goliath.
got, that was all horrible.
Yes. David versus Goliath is the next thing that we will be doing through the group, because it is spring and summertime, and you don't always not everyone has the time to contribute to being able to put these tastings together or join. So that is next on the docket. So I will be putting together some survey stuff as to how we want to run it this time.
The Ben Nevis did really sneak out in that David versus Goliath. That was some really impressive whiskey. Well, that's all I have for you guys. Number one, Russell and Mike and Jeff and everyone who's kind of gotten this together, thank you so much for what you do. So if you still have a dram left, raise it up to you guys, because we can't do this without you. So thank you so much. And John, great to see you. Can't wait to be at an event with you. I'm not in Ontario anytime soon. It feels like I'm not doing an event in Ontario anytime soon, but it's just good to be with you guys all again. So cheers to you. As of tomorrow, I can take my mask off at midnight tonight in BC. It's a very exciting moment.
Well, thanks, James. Thanks, John. I guess it's time to stop recording and hit the aftergrounds. Where's Andre at? That's where the party's at.
Yeah, thank you very much, gentlemen. That was a lot of fun, a lot of good drams, a lot of good chats. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording here. Everybody's more than welcome to stay on as long as you like.
Thanks.
Cheers, guys. James, thanks so much.